The expanse was a place where ships went to die. Broken hulls floated between asteroids like metal ghosts. Ancient wreckage from wars that ended before humans learned to make fire drifted in the endless dark. No one came here unless they were desperate or foolish. Captain Park was a little bit of both. He stood at the bridge window of his salvage vessel, the Morning Star, and watched the debris field pass by. His ship was small and old, built for finding valuable scraps in places other people avoided. For 15 years had made his living this way. He found what others missed. He saw value where others saw garbage. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," said from the pilot's seat. She was the youngest member of his crew, barely 25 years old, but she could fly a ship through a needle if you asked her nicely. Her fingers moved across the control panel. "Big energy signature ahead, really big." Walked over to look at her screen. The signal was massive, larger than anything they had found before. "What kind of ship makes a reading like that?" "A dead one," said Lee from his station. The first officer was a former military man with gray hair and suspicious eyes. He trusted nothing and no one, which made him excellent at his job. "If it was alive, we would already be running away." "Bring us closer," ordered. "Slowly." The Morning Star moved through the asteroid field like a fish swimming through rocks, guided them with careful hands, avoiding the floating wreckage that could tear their hull open. The energy signature grew stronger on their screens. Then they saw it, was the first to speak. She was the chief engineer, a woman with oil-stained hands and a mind that never stopped working. She had fixed every broken thing on the Morning Star at least twice. Now she stood at the window with her mouth open like a child seeing snow for the first time. "That is not possible," she whispered. The ship before them was enormous. It stretched 5 kilometers from front to back, bigger than any vessel had ever seen. Its hull was dark gray and covered with strange patterns that might have been writing or might have been decoration. Parts of the surface looked damaged by time, but the basic shape was still beautiful in a terrible way. It looked like a weapon that had been sleeping for a very long time. "Design," said quietly. "I recognize it from the military archives. The Empire died 3,000 years ago. This must be one of their warships." "A warship," repeated. She was already moving toward her engineering station, pulling up data on her screens. "A warship. Do you understand what this means?" "It means someone already claimed it," said. "The hegemony surveys every sector. If this ship has been here for 3,000 years, they found it long ago." He was right. A quick search through public records told the story. The Hegemony Council, the ruling body of the 12 elder species that controlled the galaxy, had discovered this wreck 60 years ago. They called it Wraith 7 in their files. Teams from 4 different species had examined it for months. Their conclusion was simple: worthless. The power core was dead. The hull alloys were corroded beyond repair. The technology was primitive by modern standards and incompatible with current systems. The Hegemony stripped a few artifacts for their museums and left the rest to rot. No one had visited Wraith 7 in 50 years. "Worthless," read from the report. "They called it worthless." "Elder species are arrogant," said. "They think anything they cannot use has no value, but that does not mean we should waste our time here. If the Hegemony could not make this ship work, what can we do?" Was not listening. She was studying the technical data from the old surveys, her eyes moving fast across lines of alien text. Her hands were shaking slightly and knew that look. She had seen something. He said, "Talk to me." "They did not understand," she said slowly. "The Hegemony engineers, the elder species, they looked at this ship with their own eyes and saw failure. But look at these systems." She pointed at her screen. "Look at the design philosophy, triple redundancy on every critical system, manual overrides for automatic functions, modular construction that allows parts to be replaced or modified." "So," asked, "so this is how humans build things," almost shouted the words. "We design for adaptation because our technology is young and always changing. They did the same thing 3,000 years ago. The elder species failed because they tried to connect their advanced but rigid technology to a system designed for flexibility. Their methods are too specialized. But ours—" She stopped, breathing hard. "Our methods might actually work." The bridge was silent. Looked at the massive wreck floating before them, then back at his chief engineer. "You want to claim this ship," he said. "It was not a question." I want to bring it home and find out what it can really do, replied. The hegemony threw it away. They said it was garbage, but I think they made a mistake. I think this ship was waiting for someone who could understand it. Waiting for 3,000 years sounded doubtful. They were advanced beyond anything we can imagine, said. Maybe they knew. Maybe they built this ship to be found by the right people at the right time. It was a crazy idea. Knew it was crazy. The Morning Star was a small salvage vessel with a crew of 12. The wreck before them was a 5-kilometer warship from a dead empire. The cost of towing it back to human space would be enormous. The chance of success was tiny. But Park had spent his whole life finding value in things other people threw away. He looked at the ancient ship one more time and made his decision. File a salvage claim, he told. Wraith 7 belongs to us now. The official response came 2 days later, delivered by a hegemony inspector who arrived in a small diplomatic shuttle. His name was Clicking Waters, with a body like a giant insect and eyes that reflected no light. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, and they made sure everyone remembered it. Clicking Waters walked through the Morning Star like he owned it, examining everything with obvious disgust. When showed him the salvage claim, the alien made a sound like broken glass scraping together. It was laughter. You humans always collect garbage, Clicking Waters said. This wreck has been examined by the finest minds of 12 civilizations. It cannot be repaired. It cannot be used. The power core is dead beyond any hope of revival. The hull will collapse if you try to move it. Then you have no objection to our claim, replied calmly. Objection, more scraping laughter. Human, you can have your pile of rust. Take it away and play with it like children play with broken toys. The hegemony has no interest in your garbage. Clicking Waters signed the approval documents without even reading them. As he left, he turned back one more time. In 10,000 years, they said, my people have learned one truth about the universe. Some things are simply worthless. That wreck is one of them. You will waste your resources and learn this lesson for yourselves. Perhaps it will teach you humility. Watch the diplomatic shuttle fly away. Behind him was already calculating the towing requirements. He called it worthless, said quietly. Yes, he did, agreed. Remember that. Remember how he laughed at us. Remember the word he used. He turned to face his crew with a small smile on his weathered face. And remember this moment, because I have a feeling that one day that word will come back to haunt them. The Morning Star began the long process of preparing the ancient wreck for transport. In the cold darkness of the expanse, surrounded by the graves of forgotten civilizations, humanity had found something the rest of the galaxy had thrown away. They did not know yet what they had discovered. They would learn. Shipyard Station Prometheus hung in orbit around 4, a green and blue world that humans had called home for 200 years. The station was built for construction and repair, with massive mechanical arms and docking bays that could hold vessels of any size. But nothing in its history had prepared it for what arrived on a cold morning in March. The ancient wreck came slowly, pulled by 14 towing ships that had taken 6 months to drag it across 3 star systems. News had spread despite efforts to keep the project secret. Thousands of people gathered at the station windows to watch. They saw a 5-kilometer ship that looked like it had been carved from shadow and steel, older than human civilization, more mysterious than anything they had ever imagined. Hen stood in the main control room and watched her greatest challenge arrive. She was the shipyard director, a woman who had built her career on completing impossible projects. Her hair was white now, her face lined with years of stress and success, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "It is bigger than I expected," she said quietly. "It is bigger than anyone expected," replied Bay. He was a quantum physicist, thin and nervous, with glasses that he constantly pushed up his nose. The government had sent him to study the wreck's power systems. He had not slept properly in weeks. "The energy readings alone are making my equipment cry." Walked up beside them. She had come with the wreck, refusing to leave it during the entire journey. She looked exhausted but happy. "Where do we begin?" Smiled. "We begin at the beginning, full examination. Every system, every component, every bolt and wire. I want to know exactly what we are dealing with before we touch anything." The examination took 3 months. Teams of scientists and engineers swarmed over the ancient vessel like ants on a sleeping giant. They mapped every corridor, every chamber, every piece of alien technology. They found things that made no sense and things that made perfect sense. They found mysteries inside mysteries. The power core was the biggest mystery of all. Spent weeks studying it, barely eating, rarely sleeping. The core sat at the heart of the ship, a sphere of unknown metal 20 meters across. According to every scan and measurement, it was completely dead. No energy, no activity, no sign that it had ever worked. But notice something strange. "It is not broken," he announced at a meeting one morning. His voice was hoarse from too much coffee and too little rest. "The hegemony said the core was dead. They were wrong. It is not dead. It is asleep." "Asleep?" Leaned forward. "Explain." "They built this core to last forever. When the ship lost its crew, when there was no one to maintain it, the core entered a hibernation state. It shut itself down to preserve its own structure. It has been waiting 3,000 years for someone to wake it up." "Can we wake it up?" Pushed his glasses up and smiled for the first time in weeks. "The hegemony tried to connect their power systems to the core. Their technology is too rigid, too specialized. The core rejected them like a body rejecting a bad transplant. But human technology," he pulled up data on the display screen. "Our systems are flexible, adaptable. We build for change because we are a young species. Our methods match the philosophy almost perfectly." The room was silent. Everyone understood what he was saying. "You think human technology can interface with a 3,000-year-old alien power core?" said slowly. "I do not think," replied. "I know. Give me 6 months and I will prove it." While worked on the power core, others made their own discoveries. Song was an AI specialist, a quiet woman with patient eyes and steady hands. Her job was to examine the ship's computer systems. What she found there changed everything. The ship had an artificial intelligence. It was not like human AI. It was older, more complex, built on principles that barely understood. The hegemony had known about it, but their reports said it was corrupted beyond recovery. Another worthless piece of a worthless ship. Disagreed. She spent months learning to read code, teaching herself a language that had been dead for 3,000 years. She built translation programs and interface systems. She worked until her eyes burned and her fingers ached. On a quiet night in September, she finally made contact. The AI woke up slowly, like a person emerging from a very long sleep. Its first words came through the speakers in broken, static-filled sounds, had tears in her eyes as she listened. "Awaiting crew," the AI said in a voice like distant thunder. "Awaiting purpose, awaiting war." "There is no war," replied softly. "The war ended 3,000 years ago. Your creators are gone." A long pause. Then, new crew detected, species unknown, designation. "We are humans. We found your ship and brought it here. We want to help you." Another pause, longer this time. The AI was processing, thinking, remembering. "Humans," it repeated, "young species, flexible technology, creative problem-solving." The voice grew stronger, clearer. "You are the ones we waited for." His heart was beating fast. "What do you mean? Who waited for us?" "My creators," the AI said. "They saw the future before they left. They knew a young species would find this ship. They designed me to wait, to sleep, to wake when the right crew arrived." The voice paused again. 3,000 years, but you are here now. I am ready to serve." The news spread quickly through the project. The ship was not just a wreck to be studied. It was a gift left behind by an ancient civilization, a gift meant for humanity. The project changed after that. It was no longer about salvage or research. It was about inheritance. Was a metallurgist, a man who spent his life studying the structure of metals and alloys. His discovery came next. The hull of the ship, which the hegemony had called corroded and damaged, was actually a self-healing material. Without power, it had gone dormant like everything else. But when small amounts of energy were applied, the metal began to repair itself. "The ship wants to be whole again," said in amazement. "It just needs power." Everything led back to the power core. Worked day and night. He built interface systems that combined human and technology. He solved problems that had stopped 12 advanced civilizations. He made connections that no one else could see. 2 years after the wreck arrived at Prometheus Station, He was ready for the first test. The whole project team gathered in the main engineering bay, stood at the control panel, her hand over the activation switch, was beside her, pale and nervous but determined, monitored the AI systems, checked the power distribution network she had helped design. Captain watched from the back, silent and proud. "If this does not work," muttered, "we just wasted 3 years and enough money to build 10 normal ships." "It will work," said firmly. "It has to work." Looked around at her team. These were the best minds humanity had to offer, gathered together for a project that everyone else had called impossible. She took a deep breath. "Beginning power core activation," she announced. "May we be worthy of what we have been given." She pressed the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. The ancient core sat dark and silent as it had for 3,000 years. Then a light appeared. It started as a tiny spark at the center of the sphere, barely visible. But it grew quickly, spreading outward in waves of blue and white. Energy readings climbed higher and higher on every screen. The whole ship began to hum, a deep vibration that could be felt through the floor. "Power output increasing," reported, his voice shaking. 10%, 2050, 75. He stared at his readings in disbelief. 100%, the core is fully active. Throughout the ship, systems that had been dead came back to life. Lights flickered on in corridors that had not seen brightness in 3,000 years. Doors opened. Screens glowed. The self-healing hull began to close its wounds. The AI spoke through every speaker at once, its voice now clear and strong. "Power restored, systems operational. This vessel lives again." A pause. "Thank you, humans, my creators chose well." Turned to look at her team. Was crying, was laughing, had fallen to her knees, even was smiling. They had done the impossible. They had awakened a ship that the entire galaxy had thrown away as worthless. But they were not finished yet. The real work was just beginning. And somewhere out among the stars, the elder species who had laughed at humanity were about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake. 1 year after the power core awakened, the ship was ready for its first true flight. It no longer looked like a wreck. The self-healing hull had closed every wound and polished itself until it shone like dark silver under the stars. New systems built by human hands worked alongside ancient technology. The ship was reborn. They called it Unyielding Dawn. Captain Park walked through the corridors of his new command and tried to understand what he was feeling. Pride, yes, fear a little, but mostly wonder. He had spent his life as a salvage captain, finding scraps and garbage and turning them into money. Now he commanded the most powerful vessel in the known galaxy. He was not sure he deserved it. "You are troubled," said a voice from the walls. Stopped walking. The ship's AI had taken a new name, Dawn, matching the vessel it served. Over the past year, Dawn had grown from a confused ancient program into something closer to a person. It learned human languages and customs. It told jokes, though they were strange jokes that made sense only to a 3,000-year-old mind. It cared about its crew in ways that sometimes felt more human than machine. "I am thinking," replied, "about responsibility." "Responsibility is the weight of purpose," Dawn said. "My creators taught me this. A ship without responsibility is just metal and energy. A captain without responsibility is just a person standing on a bridge. Together, you become something more. Your creators sound like wise people." They knew many things. Dawn paused in a way that had become familiar. It meant the AI was deciding how much to share. "They knew about you." Frowned. "What do you mean?" "Come to the bridge, Captain. There is something I must show you." The bridge of Unyielding Dawn was a circular chamber at the heart of the ship. Screens covered every wall, showing views of space outside and data from systems inside. The crew stations were arranged in a pattern that somehow felt natural to human bodies, even though they had been designed 3,000 years before humans existed. Sat at the pilot station, her hands resting on controls that responded to her thoughts as much as her touch. Lee monitored tactical systems that made human weapons look like toys, moved between engineering stations, checking readouts and adjusting settings. They were no longer a salvage crew. They were the command team of a warship. Took his seat at the center of the bridge. "Dawn, show me what you wanted me to see." The main screen changed. Instead of stars, it showed images that did not recognize. a beautiful planet covered in silver cities, ships flying through space in elegant formations, beings that looked almost human but taller, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed softly with inner light. The Dawn said, "My creators, this was their home world Prime before they left." Left looked up from her station. "The records say they were destroyed." "The records are wrong. They were not destroyed by enemies. They evolved. They grew beyond physical form. They transcended." The images changed, showing the silver beings transforming into pure light and rising from their planet. But before they left, they saw the future. They knew what was coming. "What was coming?" asked suspiciously. "You," Dawn said simply. "Humanity." The screen showed new images now. A small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Primitive creatures standing upright for the first time. Fire, tools, cities, ships reaching toward the sky. 3,000 years ago, when my creators built me, they looked forward through time. They saw a young species that would find the ship, a species that was different from the elder races. Creative, adaptable, compassionate. Dawn's voice grew warm. "They saw humanity, and they left me here to wait." "Felt cold. Wait for what?" "To give you their inheritance." The screen changed again, showing technical data that made gasp. "This ship contains the greatest technology the ever created, weapons that can end wars or prevent them, shields that can protect worlds, engines that can carry you anywhere in the universe. My creators left it all for you." "Why?" asked. "Why us? We are nobody. The elder species call us children." "Because children grow," Dawn replied. "The elder species are old. They have stopped changing. They see the universe as a thing to be controlled and measured and kept the same forever. But they saw that the universe needs new ideas, new dreams, new hope." The AI paused. "They saw that the universe needs you." The bridge was silent. Everyone was trying to understand what they had just learned. "This is too much," said finally. "We are not special. We are just people." "Every great thing in history started with people who believed they were not special," Dawn answered. "Do not be afraid of your inheritance, Commander. Be worthy of it." The first test of unyielding Dawn's weapons came a week later. Deep in an empty part of space, far from any inhabited system, the crew prepared for what they called a capabilities demonstration. In reality, they wanted to know exactly what their ship could do. The target was an asteroid roughly 200 kilometers across, large enough to destroy a planet if it ever fell on one. The plan was simple: see if the ship could damage it. "All weapons standing by," reported. "Dawn, what exactly are we firing?" "Primary beam weapon," the AI replied. They called it the voice of Dawn. It focuses energy in ways your physics cannot yet explain. Theoretical maximum output exceeds anything in the current galactic database. "Let us start at minimum power," said. "No need to be dramatic. Minimum power at your command, Captain." The ship fired. A beam of golden light shot from the front of unyielding Dawn. It crossed the distance to the asteroid in less than a second. When it hit, the asteroid simply stopped existing. There was no explosion, no debris, no flash of light. One moment there was a rock 200 kilometers wide. The next moment there was nothing but empty space. The bridge was completely silent. "Captain," Dawn said after a long moment, "that was 1% of minimum power. I had to reduce output to avoid damaging nearby space." His face had gone pale. "You destroyed an asteroid that size with 1% power." "Correct. At full power, the voice of Dawn could affect targets at the planetary scale. They built this weapon to end wars, not to fight them." Was shaking her head slowly. "The elder species threw this away. They called it worthless. They could not even see what it was." "They saw only what they expected to see," Dawn said. "A primitive design from a dead civilization. They never imagined that the design was meant for someone else." The tests continued for weeks. They learned about shields that could absorb and redirect any form of energy. They learned about sensors that could detect a single ship across an entire star system. They learned about engines that bent the fabric of space itself, allowing travel faster than anyone believed possible. Each discovery made the truth more clear. Unyielding Dawn was not just a warship. It was the most powerful vessel in the galaxy, and it belonged to humanity. But secrets do not stay hidden forever. 3 months after the weapons test, received a message from Human Intelligence Services. Someone had leaked information about the project. The hegemony knew about Unyielding Dawn, and they were not happy. The Dominion has filed an official complaint, the intelligence officer reported. They are claiming that the ship belongs to the hegemony as heritage of all civilizations. They want it surrendered for dismantling and study. The ship was legally salvaged, replied. They approved the claim themselves. That was before they knew it worked. Now they want it back. Thought about clicking waters, the inspector who had laughed at them and signed the approval without reading it. He thought about the word the alien had used, worthless. Tell them no, he said. Captain, this could mean war. Then it means war. His voice was calm but firm. We did not steal this ship. We did not trick anyone. The entire galaxy threw it away as garbage, and we made it something great. That is not a crime. That is exactly what they wanted us to do. He ended the communication and turned to face his crew. This was always going to happen, he said. The elder species cannot accept that we succeeded where they failed. They will come for our ship. He looked at each of them in turn. Are you ready? Ready for what, exactly? Asked. Dawn answered before could speak. Ready to show the galaxy what humanity can do. Ready to prove that my creators were right about you. Ready to change everything. The AI's voice was warm with something that sounded almost like hope. The waiting is over. The test begins now. Hegemony Prime was the political center of the galaxy, a massive station built around an artificial star at the exact center of civilized space. Representatives from 12 elder species gathered there to rule over everything. Their ancestors had traveled between stars when humans still lived in caves. They believed this made them wise. It mostly made them arrogant. Ambassador No stood alone in the great chamber, surrounded by beings who had spent 10,000 years looking down on younger species. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a voice that could cut through steel. The government had sent her because she was the best diplomat humanity had. Today, she would need to be. The evidence is clear, declared Overlord of the Dominion. He was enormous, 3 meters tall, with a body like an armored insect and a voice that echoed through the chamber. The humans have rebuilt a warship. This technology is too dangerous for a juvenile species. It must be surrendered to the hegemony for proper study and disposal. Waited for him to finish. She had learned long ago that patience was a weapon. The Overlord speaks of evidence, she replied calmly. Let me present some evidence of my own. 60 years ago, the hegemony surveyed the vessel now called Unyielding Dawn. Your experts from 4 species examined it for months. Their conclusion, recorded in official documents, was that the ship was worthless. Dead power core, corroded hull, primitive and incompatible technology. She let the words hang in the air. Worthless, that was the word used. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some of the elder species representatives shifted uncomfortably. When humanity filed a salvage claim, your inspector laughed at us. He said we were collecting garbage. He signed the approval without reading it because he was so certain we were wasting our time. His voice grew harder. Now, 3 years later, the garbage has become the most advanced ship in the galaxy, and suddenly you want it back. The situation has changed, insisted. The danger cannot be ignored. The situation has not changed, Overlord. The ship is the same ship it always was. The only difference is that humanity succeeded where you failed. We saw value where you saw waste. We built something great from something you threw away. Stepped forward, looking up at the massive alien without fear. And now you want to take it because you cannot stand that we were right and you were wrong. The chamber exploded with angry voices. Representatives shouted accusations and demands. Eyes glowed with rage. You are children, he roared. Your species has been traveling the stars for 400 years. Mine has ruled this sector for 10,000. You have no right to technology you cannot understand. We understood it well enough to make it work, shot back. Perhaps that is what frightens you. Perhaps you are afraid that the children are growing up. The Arbiter Cellos raised one ancient limb for silence. Cellos was a synthetic being built by a civilization that had died before the hegemony existed. It served as a neutral observer, caring only for justice and truth. When it spoke, everyone listened. Ambassador speaks truthfully, Cellos said in a voice like wind through metal. The salvage claim was legal. The approval was given freely. The humans did not steal or deceive. By the laws of the hegemony, the vessel belongs to them. Laws can be changed, growled. They can, but should they? The hegemony has always respected property rights. To take this ship by force would set a dangerous precedent. Any species that builds something valuable could have it seized by those more powerful. This is different. This is a weapon. Every ship in your fleet is a weapon, Overlord. Cellos turned its ancient eyes toward, including the 500 you have gathered at the edge of human space. Silence fell over the chamber. The secret was out. You are already preparing for war, said quietly. You never intended to negotiate. You came here to demand surrender, and when we refused, you planned to take what you wanted by force. Did not deny it. Humanity will not be allowed to keep this weapon, surrender the ship, or face the combined might of the hegemony. 3 fleets, 500 warships against your 47. His voice dripped with contempt. This is not a negotiation, Ambassador. This is an ultimatum. Looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I have a message from Captain Park, commander of Unyielding Dawn. He asked me to deliver it if this conversation went badly. She straightened her shoulders. The message is this: you threw this ship away. You declared it worthless. You laughed at us for taking it. And now that we have done what you could not, you want it back. She met eyes without flinching. No, come and take it. She turned and walked out of the great chamber without looking back. Back in human space, Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the tactical display with tired eyes. He was old now, his hair gray and his body from battles fought decades ago. He had served humanity his entire life. He had never faced odds like this. 500 confirmed, his tactical officer reported. Dominion, Crystalline Accord, and Voidborn Collective. They will reach the threshold in 6 hours. The threshold was the boundary between human space and hegemony territory. It was where the battle would happen if battle came, had 47 ships waiting there. Good ships, well-trained crews, brave men and women who would fight to the last breath. But 47 against 500 was not a battle. It was a massacre. Admiral, his communications officer called, message from Unyielding Dawn. Captain is on the line. Nodded, put him through. His face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, almost peaceful, like a man who had made up his mind about something important. Admiral, what is your plan? My plan is to die well, replied honestly. We cannot win this fight, but we can make them pay for every ship they destroy. We can show them that humanity does not surrender. I have a different plan, leaned forward. Pull your fleet back behind the threshold. Let Unyielding Dawn handle this. 1 ship against 500. This is not a normal ship, Admiral. You know that. Was silent for a moment. He had read the reports about Unyielding Dawn. He knew what it could do in theory. But theory and reality were different things. If you fail, humanity loses its only advantage, he said. The hegemony will take the ship and punish us for resisting. If your fleet fights alongside us and we all die, humanity loses everything, countered. Give us a chance, Admiral. Let us show you what my crew has built. Let us show the galaxy what humanity can do when someone throws us away and calls us worthless. The old Admiral thought about his life, all the battles he had fought, all the friends he had lost, all the times he had believed that humanity was alone in a hostile universe, surrounded by species that saw them as children at best and insects at worst. He thought about what it would mean if was right. Very well, Captain, he said finally. The threshold is yours, but I will be watching. If things go badly, my fleet will come to your aid. Understood, and Admiral smiled slightly. Watch closely. This is going to be interesting. 6 hours later, 500 hegemony warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the threshold. They formed up in perfect attack formation, a wall of metal and weapons stretching across space. Each ship was crewed by veterans of 100 conflicts. Each commander was certain of victory. They expected to find a human defense fleet. Instead, they found a single ship. Unyielding Dawn hung in the darkness like a silver ghost, alone against an army. On its bridge, Captain stood at the center of his crew and felt the weight of 3,000 years of waiting pressing down on him. Dawn, he said quietly, are you ready? I have been ready for 3,000 years, Captain. The The question is whether they are ready for us. Overlord's voice came through the communication system, broadcast from his flagship at the center of the hegemony formation. Captain Park, you have one final chance to surrender. Give us the ship and your species will be spared. Resist and you will be destroyed. Choose now. Looked at his crew. At the pilot station, her hands steady on the controls. At tactical, his face grim but determined. At engineering, ready to push the ship beyond all limits. They had come so far together. They had believed in something the whole galaxy said was impossible. He opened a channel to respond. Overlord, I have a message for you and the entire hegemony fleet. You see a single ship and think this will be easy. You see a young species and think we are weak. You remember calling us garbage collectors and children, and you believe nothing has changed. He paused, letting the silence stretch. You are wrong. Everything has changed, and you are about to learn why they left this ship for us. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Dawn, take us to war. The ancient AI's voice rang through the ship with something that sounded like joy. With pleasure, Captain, with absolute pleasure. Unyielding, Dawn moved forward to meet 500 warships alone. The Battle of the Threshold began at exactly 1400 hours, Galactic Standard Time. 500 warships opened fire on a single target. For 3 seconds, the space around Unyielding Dawn became a storm of energy beams, missiles, and weapons that had destroyed civilizations. When the storm ended, the ship was untouched. Shields holding at 100%, reported, his voice steady despite the impossible thing they had just survived. They hit us with everything they had. Dawn absorbed all of it. Not absorbed, the AI corrected. Learned. Their weapons operate on predictable principles. My shields now understand them completely. They cannot hurt us. On the bridge of his flagship, Overlord stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Fire again. All ships concentrate fire. Another storm of weapons fire. Another 3 seconds of absolute destruction aimed at a single point in space. Another failure. Unyielding, Dawn began to move. The ship accelerated in ways that should have been impossible. It did not push through space like normal vessels. It bent space around itself, appearing and disappearing like a ghost made of silver and shadow. One moment it was in front of the hegemony fleet. The next it was behind them, then above, then below. I cannot track it, a tactical officer screamed. It is everywhere at once. Captain stood at the center of his bridge and watched the chaos unfold around him. His hands danced across her controls, guiding the ship through movements that seemed more like magic than technology. Monitored the engines, pushing them harder than they had ever been pushed before. Selected targets with calm precision. Remember our orders, said quietly. We are not here to destroy them. We are here to teach them. Understood, Captain, Dawn replied. Disabling fire only, beginning engagement. Unyielding, Dawn opened fire. The weapons of the ancient ship did not kill, they removed. With surgical precision, Dawn targeted power cores and engine systems, weapons arrays and shield generators. One by one, the hegemony warships went dark, not destroyed, not damaged beyond repair. Simply stopped. The first ship lost power in less than a second, then 3 more, then 10, then 50. Watched his fleet falling silent around him, and felt something he had not felt in 1,000 years. Fear. Fall back, he ordered. All ships retreat. But there was nowhere to retreat to. Unyielding Dawn was everywhere, its golden beams reaching out to touch ship after ship with terrible gentleness. The battle was not a fight, it was a demonstration, a lesson being taught to students who had refused to learn any other way. Admiral watched from his flagship behind the threshold. His tactical officers had stopped trying to track the battle because there was nothing to track. Just a single ship moving through 500 enemies like a wolf among sheep. How long has it been? He asked quietly. 4 hours, Admiral. 217 hegemony ships disabled. No casualties on either side. No casualties. The most powerful fleet in the galaxy was being taken apart piece by piece, and no one had died. Shook his head in wonder. They really did build this ship for humanity, he murmured. They knew we would choose this way, mercy instead of destruction. Back at the battle's flagship was the last ship still operational. It hung alone in space, surrounded by 499 silent vessels. Unyielding dawn appeared in front of it, closer than any ship had ever been allowed to approach. Overlord, Captain's voice came through the communication system. Your fleet is disabled. Your weapons are useless. Your shields cannot protect you. Do you wish to continue? The Overlord sat in his command chair and felt the weight of 10,000 years of superiority crumbling around him. His ancestors had ruled this sector when humans were still learning to use fire. His people had always been the strongest, the most powerful. And now a species they had called garbage collectors had defeated 500 of their best warships without killing a single person. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice empty of arrogance for the first time in his life. "I want you to understand something." His voice was calm, even gentle. "We are not your enemies. We never wanted to be. All we asked for was respect, the chance to grow and learn and become something more than you believed we could be." A pause. "Today you see what we can do. You see that we could have destroyed your entire fleet, every ship, every crew member. We had the power to end your Dominion's military strength forever. Why did you not? Because that is not who we are. Humanity does not build weapons to destroy. We build them to protect. We fight wars to end them, not to win them. And when we defeat our enemies," paused again, "we give them the chance to become our friends." Silence stretched across the space between the two ships. "Your ships will be towed to a safe location," continued. "Your crews will be treated with dignity. When repairs are complete, you will be free to return to hegemony space. We ask nothing in return except that you remember this day. Remember that we could have destroyed you. Remember that we chose not to." Closed his eyes. Something was changing inside him, something he did not have a name for yet. "Why show us mercy after everything we said about you, after we tried to take your ship by force?" "Because mercy is the greatest weapon of all," replied. "It defeats enemies in ways that violence never can. Today we did not just win a battle. We planted a seed, the seed of understanding, of respect, maybe even someday of friendship." His voice softened. "That is what they wanted us to learn. That is why they left this ship for us, not to conquer the galaxy, but to change it, one act of mercy at a time." The communication ended. Unyielding, dawn moved away, leaving the disabled fleet drifting in silence. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The Hegemony Council met in emergency session. For the first time in history, they did not discuss how to control or contain humanity. They discussed how to accept them as equals. Some argued for war, for building new weapons, for finding ways to defeat the ancient ship, but spoke against them. "I stood on my bridge and watched that ship take apart 500 warships without killing anyone," he told the council. "They had the power to destroy us all. They chose mercy instead. What does that tell you about them?" "That they are weak," another overlord sneered. "No, it tells you that they are strong in ways we do not understand. We have spent 10,000 years believing that power means destruction. They are showing us a different way." Looked around the chamber. "They saw something in humanity that we missed. Perhaps it is time we started looking for it too." It was not the end of conflict between humanity and the elder species. That would take decades, maybe centuries, but it was a beginning. On unyielding dawn, Captain stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The ship hummed around him, alive and content after its first real battle. Dawn's presence filled the air like a warm blanket. "You are troubled again," the AI said. "I am thinking about what comes next. They left this ship for us. They believed we would do something important with it. But what? Winning one battle is not enough to change a galaxy." "No," Dawn agreed, "but it is a start, and there is more." "More?" "Before my creators transcended, they left other things behind. Other ships, other technologies, other gifts for the species they chose to inherit their legacy." The AI paused. 6 months ago, sensors detected an ancient signal at the edge of known space. A second shipyard, it contains not one derelict but hundreds, turned to face the ship's main display, where a star chart appeared showing a distant sector of space he had never visited. Hundreds of ships, hundreds of possibilities. They did not leave you one weapon, Captain. They left you an entire inheritance. The tools to build a better galaxy if you are brave enough to use them. Thought about his crew, about who had seen value in a worthless wreck, about who had piloted them through an impossible battle, about who had learned that mercy could be stronger than violence, about all the humans who had worked to rebuild something the galaxy had thrown away. He thought about what it meant to be chosen by an ancient civilization that had seen the future. He thought about the word worthless and how wrong it had been. "Set a course," he said finally. "Let us see what else our inheritance includes." "With pleasure, Captain." Don's voice was warm with something that might have been pride. "My creators waited 3,000 years for you. Do not disappoint them." "I do not intend to." Unyielding Dawn turned toward the distant stars and began to move. Behind it, the hegemony watched in silence as humanity set course toward a future no one had imagined. The age of elder species was ending. The age of humanity was just beginning. And somewhere in the fabric of space and time, the spirits of the smiled at the children they had chosen so long ago. The garbage collectors, the young species that found beauty in broken things, the people who had learned the greatest lesson of all, that nothing is truly worthless, that everything can be rebuilt, that the universe belongs to those who refuse to give up. The story was only starting, but it was going to be a good one.